Sponsors or selling direct? The podcast revenue model comparison every host should run first. Ad reads pay by the download, but a course, a coaching call, or a premium feed pays by the listener who actually trusts you. The math isn't as close as it looks. Every podcaster hits the same fork in the road around episode 40 or 50. Once the download numbers start looking real, chase sponsors or start selling something of your own. Most hosts default to sponsors because it feels like the obvious next step. Someone emails you, you read a script, you get a check. But run the actual numbers side by side and a different picture emerges. Sponsorship revenue is capped by your downloads and somebody else's ad budget. Direct revenue is capped by nothing, except how well you understand your audience and how good your offer is. This isn't an argument to quit sponsors cold turkey. It's a framework for deciding which one deserves your energy first, and how to build a system where they support each other instead of competing for the same 30 seconds of airtime. The sponsorship math, honestly. Podcast ad rates are usually quoted as CPM, cost per 1,000 downloads, and they typically land between $15 and $30 for a mid-roll spot, depending on niche and audience quality. That sounds fine until you plug in real numbers. A show averaging 3,000 downloads per episode at a $25 CPM earns roughly $75 per episode for one sponsor slot. Run 2 spots, and you're at $150. That's a real number, but it's also a ceiling. You cannot outwork your way past it. The only levers are more downloads, more sponsors per episode, which erodes listener experience fast, or a higher CPM, which mostly comes from being in a premium category like finance or B2B tech. If you're not already there, waiting for CPMs to rise is not a strategy. There's also a structural problem. Sponsorship income is rented, not owned. Lose the sponsor relationship, get dropped by a network, or watch a category go quiet. This happens. Crypto and DTC ad budgets have swung wildly over the past few years, and your revenue disappears overnight. You did the work of building an audience, and someone else's ad budget decided what that work was worth. The direct-to-audience math. Now compare that to selling something yourself. Say you host a marketing podcast with 3,000 downloads per episode, the same show from the example above. Instead of, or alongside, a sponsor read, you mention a $39 mini-course on cold email templates twice, naturally, because it solves a problem you just talked about. Even a conservative 0.5% conversion rate on downloads, 15 people, is $585. That's already more than 2 sponsor slots combined from the same episode, with 0 ad sales calls and no script to read on someone else's timeline. Push conversion to 1%. Very achievable when the offer is tightly matched to what you just discussed. And you're at 1,170. And unlike sponsorship, this number grows every time you improve the offer, the page, or the pitch. It isn't capped by an advertiser's willingness to pay. The real difference. Sponsorship pays for attention. Direct products pay for trust. Podcast audiences trust hosts more than almost any other content format. Treat that trust like the asset it is, instead of renting it out to the highest bidder every episode. Head-to-head. What actually changes the outcome? What to actually sell? And when to mention it? The hosts who make direct selling work aren't guessing. They're matching format to what a listener can act on immediately after hitting stop on an episode. A few patterns that consistently convert for podcasters. A templated download tied to the exact episode topic. If you just spent 40 minutes on your interview outreach process, sell the actual email templates, not a vague resource guide. The short paid course that goes deeper than any single episode could, turns your best 3 or 4 episodes into a structured path with a start and an end. One coaching or a strategy call. Perfect for hosts whose audience has money to spend on getting unstuck faster. Priced anywhere from $75 to $300 plus depending on niche. A paid membership or ad-free premium feed. For shows with a loyal recurring audience, this turns your most engaged 2-5% of listeners into monthly revenue. A live webinar or workshop. Great for launch moments, and it doubles as content you can clip for future episodes. The mention itself matters as much as the product. Skip the generic link in the show notes line. Say the actual URL out loud twice per episode in a memorable format. This is exactly why link in bio storefronts exist. Store.fan your name is easy to say on air, easy to remember, and works whether someone is listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or a car speaker with no clickable notes in sight. Building the system, one link, every platform. The reason so many podcasters stall out on direct sales isn't the product idea. It's the friction of getting someone from "I heard this on my commute" to "I paid for this." A forgotten landing page, a link buried in show notes nobody reads, a Calendly link with no context. All of it adds steps. The fix is a single, memorable storefront link that lives in your podcast bio, your Instagram, and your mouth during the ad break. When you create your store, you get one URL that can host a digital download, a course, a coaching calendar, and a paid membership side by side. So the offer you mention in episode 12 and the one in episode 40 both live in the same place your audience already knows to check. Delivery matters more for podcasters than for most creators, because buyers are often listening passively and buying on impulse between episodes. If checkout is clunky, that impulse dies. On Store.fan, payment triggers instant automatic delivery, a secure download link on screen and by email, with course access or a coaching meeting link sent the same way. Connect Stripe in one click or drop in a PayPal email, and Apple Pay and Google Pay just work. No listener has to dig for a card while driving. Want to see it assembled into a real storefront first? Check out a live example store. Pick one product tied directly to your most recent or most popular episode topic. Write the exact sentence you'll say out loud to pitch it. Practice it so it doesn't sound like an ad read. Open your Store.fan and add that one product with a clear title and price. Turn on a discount code for first-time listeners to lower the risk of a first purchase. Add your storefront link to every platform bio, not just show notes. Track which episode mention drove the most sales. Then double down on that format. A sponsor pays you for access to your audience. Your audience pays you for access to your judgment. One of those is a much better long-term business. The hybrid model most successful hosts land on. In practice, the best-run podcasts rarely pick one lane forever. Sponsorship money covers hard costs, editing, hosting, a producer, especially early on when your own product library is thin. Direct revenue is what compounds, because every buyer becomes a customer you can email again, upsell later, or invite into a membership. A workable sequence. Take sponsors while building your first product, then shift ad read time toward your own offer once direct revenue starts outperforming a single sponsor slot. Plenty of shows eventually drop sponsors entirely, not out of principle, but because the math stopped making sense once their own products were converting at 1-2% of downloads. This is also where a lot of hosts underestimate what a small paid plan unlocks. Custom checkout fields let you collect the info you actually need. Favorite episode, biggest challenge, before a coaching call. Discount codes let you run listener-only launch pricing. Broadcast emails let you resell to past buyers without waiting for them to hear another ad read. None of that requires a huge audience. It requires a system. Compare plans against what a single decent sponsorship month is worth to you, and the decision usually makes itself. FAQ. The uncomfortable truth is that sponsorship feels like monetization because it looks like other podcasters' monetization, but it's the model with the lowest ceiling and the least control. Selling direct feels harder because you have to build something, but it's the only version of podcast revenue where the upside is actually yours. Start with one product, one clear mention per episode, and one link you say out loud. For more playbooks like this one, browse the blog. And if you haven't set up where that link actually sends people yet, that's the one piece of infrastructure worth fixing this week. Key takeaways. Sponsorship CPMs typically pay $15 per $1 per 1,000 download, fine at scale, brutal below 5,000 per episode. A single listener who buys a $47 course or books a $150 coaching call can be worth more than 1,000 ad impressions combined. Direct offers convert on trust and specificity, not reach. So a 900 download niche show can out-earn a 20,000 download general one. The strongest model isn't either. Or, use sponsor reads to fund production, and use your own products to build real, compounding income. You need a place to sell that isn't a sponsor's landing page. Your own storefront is the asset you actually control. Start your creator store free at store.fan.